The comedy show where Americans in America covering American news are called Foreign Agents. By the end of this segment, you will realize the stock market is a complete fraud. But it's not all bad news. By the end of this segment, you'll also know a great new recipe for a coconut carrot cake. So let's get started, shall we? The stock market, the heartbeat of the American economy, the lifeblood of our entire system, the testicles of our desecration of the planet. The stock market has gotten so big that it is now worth $30 trillion. Wow, that's a lot of money. And wow, am I being condescending right now or what? Well, it's time to throw in some condescending images as well. When you picture a stock, when you picture like buying a stock in a company, what do you picture? You probably imagine a company like PepsiCo, and you are this is what I see in my head. And you are an investor, so you buy a share. You buy a piece of the company, right? So now you own a piece of the company, and you get a proportion of the profits, which are called dividends. It's a messy but fair process. Let's say you purchase stock in a company that manufactures a new type of razor scooter that also doubles as a colonoscopy machine, all right? Whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, while you're on the scooter, it does the colonoscopy by surprise. You know? But anyway, you know this device is revolutionary, so you buy a share in the company hoping to get some of those profits. Well, that's not what a stock is. Not at all. That's what a stock used to be, but that was back when men used to wear top hats, and if a lady showed her knees in public, she was a floozy who should die alone. Nowadays, you almost never receive the profits of the business, and the company is not obligated to pay you anything for your stock ever. Here's an example, the example of Google. According to Tan Lu's book, The Ponzi Factor. A share of Google can trade around $900. But Google explicitly states in writing that the par value of their stock is only $0.001. Google also says they do not pay their investors any dividends, and their Class C shareholders have no voting rights. So if you own a share of Googe, you won't receive any money from Google, you won't be allowed to vote on corporate issues, and Google isn't obligated to pay you anything more than $0.001 for the share you bought for $900. So what the fuck do you own? Nothing. It is nothing. You own a slip of toilet paper that you might be able to trick someone else into paying you for. So then where do the profits come from? Like if you buy Google at $20 and you sell it at $220, where did the $200 come from? It came from other investors who were willing to buy the stock. As Tan Lu puts it, this is actually a negative sum situation because the underlying company isn't involved in the transaction. The investors are just cannibalizing each other for profits, and there are fees attached to every transaction. Cannibalizing each other for profits. Now, this is starting to sound like an American enterprise. This is an all-American activity. It's right there on the flag. America, cannibalizing each other for profits in 1776. So, the money you make from most stocks, if you make money, is coming from other investors pumping new money in. And if there aren't new investors willing to buy the stock, then you're just fucked. You're just standing there with your thumb up your ass. That's it. Can we pause for a second? Why is standing there with your thumb up your ass an expression? And the other one that kind of means the same is standing there with your dick in your hand, right? They both mean you got nothing going on. You're just standing there with your thumb up your ass and your dick in your hand. But that doesn't sound like nothing. You know, that sounds like a big night if you're into that kind of thing. And it sounds like a terrible night if you're not into that kind of thing. But it certainly doesn't sound like nothing. Where were we? Oh, yeah. You only make money if new investors want to buy the stock from you. Otherwise, you're screwed. Why does that sound familiar? That setup sound? Oh, I know. It's the exact definition of a Ponzi scheme. Our stock market is a Ponzi scheme. The Securities and Exchange Commission defines a Ponzi scheme as an investment fraud that involves the payment of purported returns to existing investors from funds contributed by new investors. But Lee, Ponzi schemes usually involve lying to the investor, which is also what goes on with Wall Street. Most investors don't understand that they own literally nothing, they don't know that they are simply gambling, and they don't know that their profit relies on everyone still believing this stupid fucking fraud is real. Boy, where do I sign up? This means the only way to get your money back or to profit is to find another chump willing to buy it. Now, don't get me wrong, your argument may be, this is America. There's always another chump. We are based on a long, time-honored tradition of never running out of chumps. We're lousy with chumps. That's a fair point, but I don't think you see anyone proudly touting that as the definition of the stock market. I would actually respect that. I would, if it were right there on the front of the stock exchange, just said, put your money in the stock market. The only way you're gonna make money is if you find a fucking idiot to buy whatever stocks you just bought, but there are an infinite number of fucking idiots. This gravy train is powered by morons. So you got nothing to worry about. If it said that, I'd be all in. I would invest, absolutely. But the fact that our stock market is a house of cards built on idiocy, stacked on spider webs, hanging tenuously from the Hindenburg, is actually kind of a big deal, you know? Think about this. As of September 2017, the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange had a combined value of over $30 trillion. This means investors believe they are entitled to $30 trillion in real money. But there's only $1.6 trillion of cash circulating in the U.S. economy and $3.8 trillion in existence in the entire U.S. economic system. Only $3.8 trillion in hard cash, which means the stock market is built mostly on nothing. Like Jared Kushner, it's built on nothing. The stock market is a Ponzi scheme, a fraud, a scam, a shakedown, a ripoff, a flim-flam, all right? Let's look at an example. Tesla. Here's a chart of Tesla's stock price from 2010 to 2017. It went from $20 a share to $380 a share. If you bought a bunch in 2010, you're probably very rich right now. So where did all that money come from? Did it come from Tesla's profits? Did you get a letter in the mail that said, dude, we just sold a car. Here's $2.75 from that car. No, you didn't get that letter because actually Tesla lost $2 billion in 2017. Over the entire period of this chart, they lost $4.3 billion. So then where in God's name is all that money coming from? The money is coming from other people gambling on the idea that that number will keep going up. And look, I don't have any problem with gambling. If you want to gamble at a casino, you gamble your fucking heart out, all right? Stay up all night until you're on your last $2 trying to give a hand job to a slot machine in hopes it just might pay out afterwards. Go for it. Have a ball. But the casinos are honest with you that it's gambling. The front of the casino doesn't say, invest your pension in roulette. You know, do you have a kid with a degenerative disease? Then put all your savings on Red 32 so he'll be taken care of when you're gone. No, casinos don't say that. The stock market does. And some people may think that if it were truly gambling, that would mean it's not predictable. Yet finance professionals claim they know how to analyze and predict the market. So you put your money in their hands, they help grow your money. Well, multiple tests have been done to see whether the professionals know how to predict the market. One contest was between amateur students, finance professionals, and a cat named Orlando, who did all his investing by tossing his favorite mouse toy on an electronic grid. Orlando, the cat, won the competition. Yeah. a cat was able to better predict the stock market, and yet trillions of dollars in pensions and life savings are dumped into stocks by people hoping that whoever they trusted that money to is smarter than a cat. And they're not. They're not smarter than a fucking cat. And what other profession is that true for? Anything from math teacher to tennis player. If you lost to a cat, they would get rid of the whole profession. But it's true for financial advisors, because the stock market is a Ponzi scheme, you see? It's a racket, a hustle, a con, a fast one, a hose job, a crooked cannoli. Pretty sure I made up the last one. And yet, in many states, many cities, gambling is illegal. They'll send in armed forces to break up poker games, right? You gotta get a permit for a raffle. You gotta go talk to a guy about a bingo game. But when a sociopath in Chicago bets your entire pension and loses, no SWAT team, no arrests, because it's a legalized Ponzi scheme. And by the way, these ideas are not allowed on your corporate media, your financial shows, your financial websites. The almighty stock market does not permit even the slightest doubt to creep in. Ton Lu, the author I've been speaking about, has tried to put his ideas on popular finance blogs and web forums, and they are often either deleted or he's banned completely from the site. They act like, he just showed up to a Scientology web forum and wrote, Tom Cruise is a freak, right? He's not an alien messiah. He's just a short weirdo, all right? And Mission Impossible was overrated. It's tough to overstate the impact this con game has on our world and our lives. Not just when people lose their pensions, but when the news came out that North Korea had brokered peace with South Korea, the stocks of the major weapons contractors tanked. Billions of dollars. Billions of dollars was lost. Now that exerts major pressure on powerful people to make sure peace does not happen. And that's just one example of how strong the gravity of this Ponzi scheme is. There are steps we could take to make the stock market less exploitative. We could stop speaking about stocks as if they are money. Stop saying you have $1,000 of Apple shares and instead say you've got 1,000 padoodles of Apple shares or whatever. Then when you sell them, then you have $1,000. Step 2 is realizing that the market economy in general is designed to exploit billions of us while a tiny number get ridiculously rich. Just ask Jeff Bezos. He's now worth 100 billion padoodles of Amazon stock, all right? And step 3, the recipe for the coconut carrot cake is 1 cup sugar. I don't really have time. Just look it up like an adult, all right? Coming from Washington, D.C., the belly of the beast is Redacted tonight.
Let's roll, never get their control. They got their money, but we've got our soul. Let's roll, never get their control. They got their money, but we've got our soul.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Lee Camp. Let's take the news from behind. Both Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu claim to have brand new proof, just remembered proof, that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon. But after scientists from the UN's nuclear agency studied both the width and the depth of Pompeo and Netanyahu, they found they were brimming full of radioactive bullshit. So the UN said there was no credible indications of Iran nuclear activity. Because just about anything this administration or our corporate media tells you is happening is not happening. And anything they don't tell you is happening is probably happening. For example, is your mainstream media telling you that disaster capitalism is gutting Puerto Rico and therefore there were major protests there this week to try to stop the austerity, stop the privatization, and gain independence? No, you haven't heard that on your mainstream media? Then yes, that means it's happening, all right? Police attacked anti-austerity protesters with pepper spray and tear gas this week. Those people have gone like 8 months without power and hot water. Do you think your pepper spray is gonna stop them? All right? Pepper spray probably made them smell better after 8 months without a hot shower. Our corporate media doesn't want you to know about people standing up. They don't want you to know about the largest teacher strike in history. The history of Arizona is happening right now. They don't care to tell you that the World Health Organization came out with a new study this week showing that 9 out of 10 people are subjected to high levels of pollutants from the air we breathe. We are filling the atmosphere with crap because we have to have factories pumping out meaningless tchotchkes that people can buy, and then, to fill the void in their souls created by advertising telling them that that's the answer. And the more tchotchkes we buy, the more jobs there are for people to make money so that they too can buy tchotchkes. And then the end result is you can't even walk down a sidewalk in your own neighborhood without inhaling pieces of your own refrigerator magnets and picture frames and fidget spinners and planned obsolescence couches that, last a week. Unfettered capitalism has gotten so pervasive, we're breathing it, all right? Sorry, just got a bit of a selfie stick lodged in my lungs there. Sorry about that. Corporate media won't mention that, will they? And actually, that article was, I admit, on CBS News' website, but it was buried under 13 grammatically incorrect columns about Stormy Daniels, so that doesn't really count. Moving on, there's more info about the new AUMF war powers Congress wants to give the president. The new bipartisan bill could give any president the power to imprison U.S. citizens in military detention forever. This either means Congress is a group of idiots and doesn't understand the bills they're presenting, or it means they're sociopaths and they want to give Donald Trump the ability to lock up anyone without a trial. But I say, couldn't it be both? Let's not sell them short. Let's not sell them short. I'm sure they're multitasking, all right? I mean, Jesus, more power? Is there any dictator tool that guy doesn't have yet? They haven't given Trump yet? I think he's still not allowed to take a dump in the backseat of your car, but they'll fix that next week in Congress, I'm sure. When's Trump gonna start wearing the gold things on his shoulders? When does that? When does that happen? When does he go full Michael Jackson? When is that? It's any day now. We have to go to a quick break. But I have live shows coming up in Los Angeles, New York City, Boston, New Haven, Rochester, Portland, Maine, Washington, D.C. Go to redactedtour.com as the clapping trickles out. Go to redactedtour.com, get tickets, or you can vote for your own city. Also, I have a new podcast called Common Censored every week. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Welcome back. Another high-profile Democratic senator and possible 2020 presidential candidate has sworn off corporate super PAC money. This time, it's Mick Resistance darling, Kamala Harris. Here now to illuminate this topic is our senior campaign financier, John F. O'Donnell. John.
Oh, thank you, guys. Hi, Lee. Everybody.
John, is Kamala Harris for real here?
Hell yeah. I mean, and it's not just her. It's also superstar senators Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand. They've all decided to take the corporate out of corporate Democrat and replace it with true progressive. They went even further and decided to take the D and the C out of Democrat and then break the remaining letters into 2 words, emo rat, AKA emotional rodent. And who wouldn't want to vote for a true progressive emotional rodent?
What? John, what in God's name are you talking about?
I'm sorry, it's just I recently rewatched Ratatouille, you know what I mean? That chef wannabe rat is inspirational, and so are these mainstream Democratic senators. Pay no attention to their voting record.
Yes, yes, pay attention to their voting record. John, let's be honest, they're not rejecting all big money donations here.
No, they're not doing that. No, not even close. A recent Intercept article points out that Cory Booker only receives a little over 10% of his campaign funding from corporate PACs. Kirsten Gillibrand receives under 7%, and Kamala Harris receives under 5%. They all get considerably more from large individual donors that include corporate executives and lobbyists. I'll give you $10 if you don't say something cynical right now.
No, I can't. It's bullshit, man. Listen, these establishment Democrats are giving up a small amount of money so they can create the illusion that they care about reforming money in politics to appeal to voters. It's more of a poll-tested, empty gesture compared to a genuine political stance.
Yeah, no $10 for you. Also, Thomas Ferguson, a leading academic who studies money in politics, strongly disagrees with you. He says, it's an absolutely cheap gesture that means nothing. That's why they do it.
He's completely agreeing with me.
I guess. But if you take the A, G, and R out of agreeing and replace it with a P, then he is completely peeing with you.
John.
Which is a different
Come on, no more of these. No more. What, you get hit in the head with a crossword puzzle. And didn't Kamala Harris just shoot herself in the foot last month with the like corporate donations came up at a town hall and?
Oh yeah, she definitely did that.
I'm gonna ask you something extremely specific, okay? Because I'm hoping for a very specific answer.
Okay.
If a corporation or a corporate lobbyist wants to give you money for a campaign, will you tell them thanks but no thanks?
Well, it depends. It depends. I mean,
Wrong answer.
Well, that's not the answer you want to hear. It doesn't make it wrong.
Jesus, and why were the zombie crowds clapping at Kamala's answer?
Look, Kamala Harris has since changed her tune, and we should celebrate that more Democrats are responding to the pressure of the progressive movement to get corporate money out of politics. It's not helpful to be uniformly dismissive.
All right, fine, I'll make a deal with you. Cory Booker's given up 10% of his corporate money, right? Okay,
Yes,
so
okay.
then we can have, you can have a 10% of a celebration.
Oh, I mean, what would that look like and involve? It would be like a stale bag of cheese puffs, one communal wine cooler, and pin the tail on the donkey, sans donkey. It would be awful, man.
That's all you get, Jonathan O'Donnell, everybody! Next up, as you know, there are some good signs for peace between the two Koreas, and this has the war hawks up in arms. For more on this, let's go to Redacted correspondent Naomi Caravan.
When the two Korean leaders shook hands a few weeks ago, the potential for peace was celebrated by all. Except the American press, pundits, and members of Trump's cabinet who saw North Korea's outreach as a dangerous, even ominous event. We all know handshakes can be terrifying. Without Purell, they could be fatal. And imagine if your acquaintance has a hook for a hand. I mean, what's the decorum for hook shaking? Do you just put out a finger shaped like a hook and shake it like that? No one was more disappointed by this event than National Security Advisor John Bolton, who still supports the Iraq War today. Now he's in the most powerful position he's ever had, so close to Trump's ear that he hears an echo when he speaks. Watch as he tried hard not to vomit when he reacted to the Korean leaders touching hands.
They're like putty in North Korea's hands. It's very emotional for South Koreans, I understand it. But, you know, as the great international relations theorist P.T. Barnum once said, there's a sucker born every minute.
Phineas Taylor Barnum, a man known for his wisdom and making a mermaid by sewing a monkey's head to a fish for his traveling freak show. Wait, is it possible that Bolton is the real merman? But Bolton is right. Korean leaders meeting at the DMZ to sign a peace declaration was an emotional event. The DMZ is a Cold War relic that the U.S. drew on a map after World War II to ensure an American sphere of influence that also separated Korean families for decades. This is what the demilitarized zone looks like. Oh, wait, no. That's just the music South Korea plays at the DMZ to counter the North Korean propaganda. Really. But now they're dismantling the speakers, and well, it just saddens me to see yet another radio station go under. But don't let all this symbolism go to your head. Think reasonably, like Bolton, who in February argued the legal case for striking North Korea first. At least, when the US decides to kill innocent Koreans, Bolton's already done all the necessary paperwork.
Here's an all-purpose insult that you can use. I'll apply it to the North Koreans. Question: how do you know when the North Korean regime is lying? Answer: when their lips are moving.
Aha! Good one. Great joke to break the ice at the peace talks. But when can you tell if Americans are lying? Aha, it's too late. You're already dead. But North Koreans have little reason to trust American leaders, too, because of a small misunderstanding where the U.S. killed a third of the Korean population during the Korean War, and thousands more through later sanctions. And because of our nasty habit of regime change.
We have very much in mind the Libya model from 2003, 2004. There are obviously differences. The Libyan program was much smaller.
Actually, the most obvious difference would have to be that we toppled the Libyan government after realizing that they didn't have a program. You couldn't have thought of a better example of peacemaking? Like, I don't know, Nuremberg? If Trump does broker a deal between the Koreas, he'll be the first to yell his way to a Nobel Peace Prize. Instead of live translation of his acceptance speech, Oslo will provide guests with earplugs. But despite a hawkish media and cabinet, any move towards peace is a cause for celebration. A celebration Trump says we should have at the DMZ. But did anyone tell him that they already removed the K-pop speakers? Reporting from Washington, this is Naomi Caravani, Redacted Tonight.
Here are your headlines from the future. 2 weeks from now, you'll learn. WHO reveals planet's atmosphere now 13% plastic, 17% chocolate nougats. And in July, man with life savings in Snapchat stock heard saying Bitcoin isn't real because it's not backed by anything. That's our show. But to get free exclusive content, just text the word Redacted to 444-999. It's free and quick. Also, I'm on Twitter @LeeCamp. Until next time, good night and keep fighting.